Hello and welcome, I'm Alpine, and for this video I'll go over my third attempt at beating Blight Lord on Extinction mode. I am doing an audio overlay because for some reason I wasn't recording audio while recording the footage for this take on Blight Lord, so that's what we're doing. I will stitch in an introduction that goes over the setup and what Blight Lord is about, but if you're not interested in that, please move forward using the chapters and timestamps below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you will enjoy.
Blight Lord is a really nasty nemesis. Its gimmick is that it has these tainted jades, which cost 0, and when you use them you gain 2 ether, but you suffer 1 damage. But you can also destroy them by spending 2 ether, and if you destroy them in any other way, you take 1 damage. You can, they count as a supply pile, so you can gain them at any time during your main phase, as you would from any other supply pile at the cost of 0. But we don't want to do that because it's very risky to do so when you're running low, because if you have 1 Tainted Jade in the supply pile at the beginning of the Nemesis turn, it advances the Tainted track once, and we'll go into that. That has some nasty effects. If it has 0, you advance it twice. So that gets really fast, it goes bad really fast. Yeah, so at the beginning we make the supply pile, which is made up of 2, 1 for each mage, so in this case 2, and then plus 4. And we have the Tainted Jade, the Tainted track. Yeah, and we trigger those effects. Yeah, increased difficulty. We remove 2 Tainted Jades, so we would have 6 on normal mode difficulty, but we have 1 additional 1, 70 HP, 80 HP on Extinction mode. So the Tainted track has all these nasty effects. Gravehold suffers 7 at 3, player with the lowest life suffers 4 at 5, which is really bad because that means you have to HP manage a lot in order to not immediately just have one of the mages go down. Because if they go below 5, like if they go below half, down to half or below half HP, yeah, that's really difficult to manage. So you only really have, 6 HP total to, do anything with. And of course, Brama is gonna heal a bit, but we don't want to rely on it. So at 7, Blight Lord gains 10 life, so that's gonna further the game, drag it out, so increasing the risk of running into tier 3 or not finishing off early enough in tier 2. And at 9, the player just lose. That's really bad, so we're gonna place the tracker on the first here. And for our mages, we have Malastar as our support mage, so to speak, because only thing he's gonna do is gonna use Gifted Ether, activate during the main phase, gain a spell from any supply pile, you may prep that spell to any player's open breach. So we want to do with Brama is just open up breaches, that's all she's gonna do. Gonna use Bison Bolt Vortex and Blasting Staff and just get through her deck really fast by giving her Radiances over here. And Malastar really goes well with Blight Lord because he has Immolate. While prep, when you suffer damage, gain 1 charge. So basically, by just taking all the Tainted Jades, figuring out how many he can use while also keeping Blight Lord 2 or above, we can get a lot of charges out of that. That's what Malastar is going to be doing. We have Brama. The only thing she's really doing is, of course, the pretty good breaches. We not really focus on the 3rd breach. We only need to open 2nd and 4th breach. That's pretty good. We have some backup healing to mitigate some of that. The player with the lowest life suffers 4 damage on the Tainted track. We have Buried Light, which is quite fine, especially 3 ether and crystals in hand. That gives you 4 ether total when you cast this to give the Blasting Staff. That's more or less it for the mages. For our starting supply, we have Leeching Agate. When you gain this, gain 1 charge. Cost of 3 basically means if you have 3 ether, instead of wasting 1, you can just gain a charge by getting this, while also building up your deck for later. That's one of the gems for Malastar. Sifter's Pearl is not really relevant. Cloud Sapphire not really relevant. We're not gonna buy them, they're just there to fill out, basically. We have Bottle Vortex. At cost of 3, destroy this. Destroy up to 2 cards in your hand or discard pile, draw a card. That's gonna help Brama empty out her deck so we can have more radiances compared to all of the cards. Blasting Staff, 4 cost. You may cast a prep spell that you prep this turn. If you do, that spell does 2 additional damage. Helps getting the radiance through the deck a lot faster, and also just momentum. Really nice for Brama. Scrying Ball, cast, deal 5 damage at the cost of 6. You don't really need to know much about this, it's not gonna bite it much. Wildfire Whip, 6 cost. While prep during the main phase, you may spend 2 ether to cast any player's prep spell. Cast, deal 4 damage. So it's not a part of our main strategy, but at the end, if Malastar has the ability to charge up, he can just prep Wildfire Whip, have a lot of unspent ether, spend it on casting all the spells. So if he goes at the end, Brama has a lot of spells prepped. Well, there they go, Auto Nemesis health, hopefully taking it out before tier 3, or even have an opening to just take out the Nemesis before they can do anything in round 7, on the last round of tier 2. And that's why we're having Wildfire Whip there. We are having Consuming Void if we just need a bit more damage with Gift of Ether to put it out and just deal some damage at the end. And then we have Radiance, the main spell. Cast, 8 cost, cast, deal 5 damage, each ally draws a card. So Malastar is gonna give Brama a lot of radiances, so deal, well, alright damage. Like 8 cost is really not that great, but what it does help with is giving Malastar a lot of draws, so he can draw into the Tainted Jades, get rid of them sooner, or use them for charges a lot faster. That's why we are running Radiance. We are playing on Extinction mode, so that means that Gravehold has 5 less HP, Nemesis has 10 more HP, and Mages has 2 less HP each. So 8 HP for Malastar and Brama, 25 for Gravehold, and 80 for Blight Lord. And with that said, let's get into the game.
Alright, starting out with the game, we start with seeing Malastar going first. And he's simply just going to spend 3 ether to open his 3rd breach and prep Immolate. So we have that ready in case we're gonna take some damage down the line and just have it prepped. Next up we have Nemesis, and we draw Vitrify. The players collectively gain 2 Tainted Jades and place them into their hands. So what we're gonna do here is simply just give Malastar both of the gems. And we do so because Malastar benefits from taking all the damage, getting all the charges, and thereby we can buff up Brama from good and early on to get all the spells that we want to begin dealing damage to Blight Lord and all the minions that are coming our way. And that's also why we're kind of happy to see Vitrify this early on, so we can begin getting all the charges that we want. Next up we have Brama going, and she's just prepping Buried Light and opening up the 2nd breach. That way there will always be room for Radiance. We prep if Malastar ends up having enough charges to use his ability and give a spell to Brama. Brama is also then going next, as you can see, and she's casting Buried Light to get the extra ether and deal 1 damage to Blight Lord, so taking it down to 79. Then using the 4 ether to focus up our 4th breach and prep the 2 sparks, again leaving room for a Radiance. Then we have Nemesis going, and we draw Banesire. Persistent Unleash, 6 HP, which is a rather rough minion to come out, especially this early on. If it keeps unleashing, if we don't get it in check, we're gonna have a lot of Tainted Jades rotating around in the deck that we might not get to in time to get out of our decks, and thereby getting far down the Tainted track really fast. Rounding out the 1st round, we have Malastar going last, and which is really fitting timing because now we actually get to get full use of the Tainted Jades from Vitrify. So we're gonna take 2 damage from the Tainted Jades, going down to 6 AP. I'm gonna do that in just a second, which gives me 2 charges, plus the 4 ether from the Tainted Jades and the 5 ether from the crystals, 9 ether total. 3 of them is going into the Legion Agate, which gives me an additional charge. And then I have 6 ether left for 3 charges, going full to use my ability to give a Radiance to Brama. And then just discarding all the cards, taking the damage now. And we are ready to head into second round. And if Brama goes, we are just going to take Banesire off completely, so we'll see how that goes. And of course, we see Nemesis going first, which triggers Banesire's persistent effect, and we gain a Tainted Jade. And that means there are now only 1 Tainted Jade left in the Tainted Jade supply pile, so we'll begin moving down the Tainted track as next time Nemesis goes. We draw Creepy Meridian to discard, spend 7 ether, power free any player against Tainted Jade, and place it into the hand, and move the Tainted Drag once. So in 2 turns, we might see a lot of movement on the Tainted track. Typically don't buy it off, well 3 turns. I typically don't buy it off because it's much more worth to just put it into charges. Next up we have Brama, so we can actually get to take down Banesire. And taking down to 1, then using a spark to take the last damage. But I actually remember to draw. If you're familiar with other games, you see that I forget to draw a lot of cards, but I think this game I'm in general a lot better at remembering it, so we'll see how this goes. Alright, so that was the first Radiance, so that's why it's really nice to get them good early on. We're gonna spend 4 ether to open up our 4th breach to prep Blight Lord, again keeping a breach open for Radiances coming from Malastar. Yeah, and then we draw the Radiance again for next turn. Well, this turn, so Blight Lord to deal 2 damage to Blight Lord, going down to 77. And I think I will, yeah, there we go, the spark also goes, so down to 76, because that way we, as I said before, we keep a space open for Malastar to prep another Radiance, given that he's being charged up before Brama goes again. Prepping Radiance to breach 4, now we're just gonna buy a Bottled Vortex to get some destroying power for down the line. We see Malastar goes, and I guess here we're contemplating if we just want to take damage and buy off Creeping Meridian. But I think we agree on just buying off the Tainted Jade, so if it goes next, it won't move down the Tainted track. So that will mean that we have 4 6 ether, and that's 2 charges after spending the 2 on the Tainted Jade. We're having a Nemesis turn, so because we now have 2 Tainted Jades, we do not move down the Tainted track. Creeping Meridian goes down to 2, and we draw a new card, which is Eye of Nothing. To discard, spend 6 ether, power 2, unleash twice. So again, this is one of those questions where like it's worth to pay off, or if it's just you're just gonna let it hit you. Right, so Malastar goes last here, having 4 ether and a Tainted Jade in hand. So we contemplated if we just want to charge all the way up, because that would get us there to get another Radiance. And I think, yeah, we're taking the damage, going down to 5 HP to get the charge from the damage, and then 2 ether from it, so that's 6 ether total, 3 charges, giving the Radiance to Brama. Yeah, and that's gonna be it for the second round. It's looking quite optimistic right now, so let's see how it goes now. Moving into round 3. See Brama going first, so that gives us the opportunity to deal a lot of damage, give a lot of cards to Malastar. As we move on, that should be 11 damage, bringing Blight Lord down to 65. So we are moving ahead quite nicely, I'll say, in that we draw the 2 cards for Malastar, giving him some good Ether hands down the line. Brama is going to prep the Blight Lord for reach, still keep the Spark prep because we have the space for it, then get another Bottle Vortex to spin out our deck and destroy some cards. And up we have Malastar. Been drawing a lot of good cards, so I guess we are considering just buying off Creeping Meridian to or Eye of Nothing to not see them go. Oh, we have another Tainted Jade in hand. If Malastar takes 1 damage on a Tainted Jade, he will have 9 Ether in hand, which allows him to pay off Eye of Nothing or Creeping Meridian, but we don't get to discard a Tainted Jade, so it's the question of like instability now for stability down the line, and also we go down to 4 HP, which is pretty risky considering Tainted Track. So in the end, I think the conclusion is that we're better off taking the charge, suffering the damage, and buying off Eye of Nothing to not see it double unleashing down the line, because that will be very difficult to control compared to current game state. Yeah, and we bought Legion Agate to get 1 extra charge. We see Creeping Meridian going down to 1 now that it's Nemesis' turn again, and we draw another minion, Shard Spitter. 5 life, persistent, Gravehold suffers 2 damage, any player gains a Tainted Jade and place it on top of their deck. We have another Malastar turn, 4 crystals and a Tainted Jade in hand, so I think we're just gonna buy off the Tainted Jades, because when Nemesis goes next, we might see a lot of Tainted Jades going our way, and we don't have enough to buy off Creeping Meridian. So there we go. Yeah, that's the 2 Ethers spent on that. 2 Ethers left over. Oh yeah, so we are debating if we just take the damage to get the 3rd charge, and then we have 6 Ether in hand, which will charge us all the way up and buy another Radiance, which actually will help us even more because we know that Brama has another turn this round, I believe, so we can prep that Radiance that we're getting now. But it also means that we're delaying getting rid of the Tainted Jade, and we might see a few Tainted Jades coming from Blight Lord. But yeah, that's what we're doing. So we're taking the offensive route right now, and I think it's actually pretty nice. Yeah, we have Brama right there. Good. Yes, we draw her hand, we have Bottle Lord in hand. Good. Radiance taking off Shard Spitter cleanly before it can even do anything. We really like to see that right in here. We also have to remember we have a Blight Lord and Spark prep that we might want to destroy. Yeah, so we're gonna cast the Blight Lord to deal 2 damage, bring it down to 63, prepping a Spark, and yeah, so we're just gonna destroy the 2 crystals in this card pile. Yeah, so we're just gonna destroy the 2 cards in the crystals in this card pile, and we prepping the other Spark we have to our 1 breach. So when we draw another Radiance, we can prep it directly to 4th breach. And I think what we're hoping for is that when we go next, we draw an additional Bottle Vortex for our next Bottle Vortex, which means that we will have the 2 Sparks that we prep it right now to destroy then, because otherwise we won't have a discard pile to destroy it from. Good, so Creeping Meridian goes off, giving a Tainted Jade to Malastar, and then also moves the Tainted Track once. Oh, and I forgot to draw. Yeah, I forgot to draw Radiance from last, but I remembered it in the end. And oh yeah, Creeping Meridian gives the Tainted Jade into hand, so Malastar's hand, and then we move the Tainted Track once. And for the last card in Nemesis Tier 1, we draw Skewer. Unleash, any player suffers 3 damage and draws a card. And Malastar is gonna get that Tainted Jade, and then Brama is gonna suffer the 3 damage to draw a card, because, well, she has the most life to do so. It might actually be an issue because now the deck might be out of sync with the Blasting Staff that we bought last turn. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, so that concludes round 3, and now we're heading into tier 2. I think we're pretty healthy, everything considered. Heading into round 4, we see Malastar going first, and in his hand he has 2 Tainted Jades and 2 Leech Jades and 3 crystals, meaning he has 7 ether. 4 of them going into paying off the Tainted Jade, so we can avoid going too far down the Tainted track. So that's also why we're really happy to see Malastar going first, so we can get rid of the Tainted Jades, and then we have 3 ether to buy another Legion Agate and getting 1 charge. Next up we draw Nemesis, and because we have 2 Tainted Jades in a supply pile, we do not trigger the Tainted track. We draw Awaken, unleash twice, and Grave suffers 3 damage, or place the most recently discarded minion card in the Nemesis discard pile back into play. And now we're considering, like, if we unleash twice now, like, we don't have to deal with a minion, but we also risk taking like a lot of Tainted Jade movements, track movements down now. And so instead we go for the minion. I think we confuse things a bit because we're not supposed to take damage here, but we do, and this will not impact the game, fortunately. Next up we have Malastar going again and drawing another Tainted Jade, and I think we just want to get rid of it because, well, Shard Splitter is out there, so that would down the line cause us some issues. Yeah, so we pay off that, and we have 2 ether left for another charge. That's just it. Now we're transitioning more into a phase where we want to control the Tainted Jades because they can get out of control really fast, and we don't really need more Radiance for Brama. We see Brama go again, and she's gonna cast the Radiance immediately, taking off that Shard Splitter and putting it in the right discard pile. Malastar remembers to draw another card. We have Radiance in hand. The 2 sparks gonna be cast before all of this happens to, yeah, bring down Nemesis to 61 and use Bottle Vortex to destroy them so we don't have them running around the deck and slowing us down too much. And we're gonna draw our Blasting Staff, which will allow us to prep and cast our Radiance immediately to deal 8 damage and allow Malastar to draw 1 additional card. So we bring down Blight Lord to 53 HP. That's gonna help us getting the Radiance through our deck so much faster, and also optimizing the usage of our Breach 4, getting that additional damage from it. Gonna prep that Radiance and Bird Light, 2 ether for a charge, so we potentially at some point can heal Malastar up above the 4 HP mark. In Brama's hand we don't see Blasting Staff coming into play, which is like a bit under optimal with just 3 Radiances, but it's what it is. We have Nemesis going with Venomites. Persistent, the player with the lowest life suffers 2 damage, or any player discards a prep spell that costs 3 ether or more. And that's where we really want Brama to have some damage prep so we can get rid of it, because that can hurt a lot, especially if we end up discarding a lot of spells to keep Malastar alive, because that will slow our damage output down quite severely. Which is also where Blasting Staff come into play, but we just have it out of sync. So now Radiance will deal 6 damage to it, and I guess we're calculating what's the optimal damage route. I believe we have put Venomite on 8 damage, even though it should be at 9. And we realized that, yeah, fixing that. So Radiance would deal 6, the Bird Light would deal additional damage, but we might have an issue with having Blasting Staff out of sync in the deck, so under optimizing the damage output down the line, but it would help with Malastar going next to deal the 2 damage that we need. In the end, I simply decided to just deal 6 damage directly to Blight Lord to bring it down to 47. That way we have 8 damage with Blasting Staff and Radiance, plus 1 damage from Buried Light to take down Venomite from 9 HP cleanly next turn. So we simply, instead of hoping for Malastar going next, we just rely on Brama going next to take it off for us. We do forget to draw a card on Malastar. I was doing so well throughout this game, but it is what it is. By delaying Venomite, or while we are forced to do so, we also run the risk of having to discard some Radiances to keep Venomite at bay or suffer some damage on Malastar, which is slightly risky, but we cannot really do much about it, so we just have to do the best for this situation. 5, we start off by drawing Malastar, so we could have gotten Venomite off this way, but well, we could also start with Brama and then it would have worked either way. So we have 3 Leeching Agates in hand, a Tainted Jade, and 3 Crystals, I believe. So we're going to use 2 Ether to buy off the Tainted Jade. And yeah, so we have left with 4, 6, 7 Ether, which is just going to be another Radiance, down to 4, up to 3 charges, and then 4 Ether left for 2 more charges. And that's simply going to be Malastar's turn. Good, so we see Brama go now, so at least that paid off. So that's 11 damage for 2 Radiance directly to Blight Lord, bringing it down below half HP to 36, I believe. And we're going to draw the 2 extra cards from Malastar. This time I actually remember. I'm not sure how much it matters not drawing the card from last Radiance. Buried Light deal 1 damage on the minion, and then Blasting Staff Radiance off 8 damage to Venomite, taking it off before it can do anything whatsoever. And that's why Blasting Staff is really great, because it allows you to use it more flexibly to deal the damage when you need it. So, but I think we might have some issues with prepping all our spells for now, but we'll see how that goes. No, it should be fine. Yes, and for Brama's turn, we have grabbed 2 Radiances and Buried Light, and then for the 2 Crystals, we have 2 Ether, which we're gonna use to charge all the way up and heal Malastar for 4. Though for some reason, I only heal him up to 5. I think it's while I'm rolling around the die, that I accidentally forget what he started on, so I thought he was on 1, and heals him up to 5. So that actually makes the rest of the game quite a bit more difficult, which is rather frustrating, especially now in hindsight, now that I know what he was supposed to be on. Right, so Nemesis turn, and we draw Lay Waste. Unleash twice, any player suffers 2 damage. So instead of going down to 5, Malastar now goes down to 3, which it should have been, and we get to get 2 Tainted Jades out into play. And that's really nice that we were on 4 in the supply pile, because, well, otherwise, if Nemesis goes again now, we would have some issues with the Tainted Trap. Bravebolt is being very healthy, and there right away we see Nemesis go again. As said, very nice to have 2 Tainted Jades there. We draw Cauterize, 3 health. When damage dealt to this minion, reduce that damage to 1. Persistent. Any player suffers 3 damage, suffers damage equal to this minion's current life. So that would mean 3 damage if we don't deal with it, but we have a number of turns now. Well, we have 1 turn, so that's going to be Immolate. To just deal that 1 damage down to 2 HP, so now we can survive a little bit longer. Of course, it would have been much easier if we hadn't already taken that damage. 2 Leeching Agates and 5 Crystals, I think it was. So that's a lot of Ether, and at this point Malastar doesn't really have a lot to do with it. Maybe like a Consuming Void or a Whip. Yeah, so we're just going to use our charges on ourselves to prep Consuming Void to have a lot of damage going on into our next turn, and then we have 3 crystals, so 10 Ether. So that's either buying a spell or 5 charges. That's 5 charges I chose. I'm not sure if that was the right choice in the moment, but it's what it is. Right, we shuffle up. That's the end of round 5. We might actually have enough damage to take it out this round in round 6, so we'll see how that goes down. Starting off round 6, we have Brama going first. We're gonna take 2 Radiances to deal 11 damage to Blight Lord, going down to 25, and add Buried Light to bring Cauterizer down to 1. We do remember to draw the 2 cards for Malastar. And then we're gonna take our Radiance. And now we're debating if we want to cast it or if we just want to keep Blasting Staff in hand. And that way maybe have enough damage for the next turn, because that would be 6 plus the 8, so that's 14. Plus the 7 from Consuming Void over on Malastar's side. So we are just 4 damage short from taking down Blight Lord. But Malastar is very close to being fully charged up, so he can on his turn charge all the way up, and then prep a Wildfire Whip and immediately cast it off with his effect by paying 2 Ether, which he should have. So I think that's our strategy forward. Yeah, so we're still gonna keep the Blasting Staff in hand, getting 2 charges, 4 Ether, 3 from Crystals and 1 from what's called Buried Light. And now we have a good deal of damage on Brama this turn. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. PG goes again, 6 damage from Radiance, bringing Blight Lord down to 19. Malastar draws another card, and then we're gonna cast another Radiance with Blasting Staff, and we're gonna hit another 8 damage, so bringing it down to 11. And now Wildfire Whip will cast itself off to deal the last like 5 damage that we need. After Consuming Void deals to 7. So as soon as Malastar goes again, we should have the win here. Brama is just gonna take 2 crystals, charge up to 3, not that it matters. We're gonna draw Nemesis, so here again it would have been really nice to not have Malastar so low on HP, but I think now we're just calculating how much damage there might be coming our way. So, but we do take the damage from Malastar because, like, yeah, it's risky no matter what. I don't think there's any good choices. And we draw Needlemore, 11 life. Resistant Gravehold suffers 2 damage, which we're super fine with right now because, well, we likely soon gonna end the game anyway, and Gravehold has a lot of HP. Right, so we see Nemesis go again, so Malastar's gonna suffer that 1 damage and Gravehold gonna suffer 2, and we draw Vertigra, 9 life. Persistent, any player suffers 3 damage. If this minion has 8 or less life, advance and tainted track. Which, well, it's not gonna be a risk because Nemesis is not going to go again, because we should have enough damage with Malastar going now, and yeah, either way, we're so close we wouldn't deal damage to it. But we're really happy to go now because that's a lot of damage lined up against the players. So, Consuming Void to deal 7 damage, destroying, yeah, Immolate and a Crystal because we're not gonna need the Immolate anyway. Now we're gonna spend 2 Ether to charge all the way up after putting Blight Lord down to 4 HP. I'm gonna spend 2 Ether, charging all the way up. I'm just like considering if I can even destroy some of the Tainted Jades while doing so, but I think I can only destroy 1 of them. Two Ether to charge all the way up, and then use my ability to get Wildfire Whip. And then spend 2 Ether to, yeah, just cast it immediately to deal that 4 or 5 damage I need. So 1 damage overkill. Oh yeah, so I can spend 2 Ether additional to simply just deal the, yeah, all the damage that I need, plus taking 1 damage off Cauterizer, I guess. Yeah, I was just playing around with like where I did the damage from at that point, because if I went again, I could then just normally cast a Wildfire Whip and have like even more damage to spare. So if we had gone into round 7, we would have drawn Dread Flint. To discard, spend 8 Ether, power 2, advance the Tainted Track twice, which is usually a really nasty effect because then you go really far down the Tainted Track, but because we hadn't moved down it so far, it's really fine. And Ossify, the players collectively gain 3 Tainted Jades and place them on top of their decks, which is usually really rough, so I'm quite happy we didn't see it. And that's also really the benefit of playing so fast and winning in round 6, which is really difficult with most Nemesis, honestly. But because we are engaging so much with the negatives and positives of gaining Tainted Jades and using it to optimizing to our own benefit, we are allowed to peak a lot sooner with damage and getting all the Radiance, the high-end spells that really scales into the late game, so we can take care of all the minions that comes our way, all the threats, and taking down Nemesis much sooner. Don't get into round tier 3, which is really nice to not get in there, but we also avoid a few casts in tier 2, which is nice, which is a little bit more inconsistent, but this setup can do that, and which is also why I'm very so persistent at recording this game this way, because it really showcases the strength of this setup. And I would like here at the end to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. And also, how do you feel about me including all the game losses? Is that a great insight into how this works sometimes, or does it just get too repetitive as well? Or how do you think it works for you?